Hey guys, Pete here. It's time for the weekly spoiler report. So if you don't like spoilers, you should stop watching right now. But I do have a book giveaway going on, so check out one of my non-spoiler videos from this week to learn more about that. Everyone else, stick around to the end to see how you can enter. And with that, let's get started. So this isn't a spoiler in any way, but it is some sad news that Peter Vaughn, the actor who played Maester Aemon, died this week at age 93. Vaughn did a terrific job playing Maester Aemon, who is, if you think about it, or should I say was, since the character died, a secret Targaryen before that was even a thing. The character he played, Maester Aemon, died of natural causes, which is a rare thing in Game of Thrones, and it was a powerful scene like most of the scenes that Maester Aemon was involved in. It's really sad to see him go, and he will be missed. Last week we talked about what looks like a dragonfire attack that was caught on film and leaked out for all to see. There has been a cleaner version that was put out since then, but we don't learn much more. It's just a little easier to look at. From what we know, this scene is a part of the collection of scenes that they're shooting, which include the ambush, but we're not sure exactly where it falls in the timeline or what else is going on. The first guess was that it could be dragonfire, someone getting burnt by the dragon, but there's some stuff that doesn't quite add up, and it could be anything, so we're just going to have to wait and see on that. At the same time, we talked about the Wolf Quarry scene that was going on in Northern Ireland, and Watchers on the Wall did secure a photo that's not great quality, but does clearly show Kit Harington being a part of the filming there. So we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but this is all part of a giant scene in the north, which is shaping up to have a lot of different characters involved. Los Siete Reinos also pointed out that there are women extras that were going to be used when they start shooting in Caceres. And this is interesting because there haven't been any scenes where we've had women extras. They've all been battle scenes so far for the most part. Again, there's more news about this later, so I won't get too deeply into it. But it just all adds up to it being, the small folk and probably being King's Landing. Earlier this week, I put out a short spoilers video because I was so geeked up about these photos that came out of the ambush scene. But on that same day, we actually had some other news too. We found out that Peter Dinklage is back in Spain, that he's in Caceres, which could mean quite a few things. It could mean that he's there for the ambush scenes that are being shot nearby, or he's there in advance for the King's Landing scenes. Either way, Tyrion's there, which isn't a big surprise, but it's still good to know. And El Periódico Extremadura reported that they had pictures of preparations for those scenes in the city streets, and it looks like things are getting set up. And in the following few days, they have even more stuff that's really cool. But if you haven't seen the pictures that came out of the highly anticipated ambush scene, you might want to go back and watch that video that I made, because when I first saw the gallery that Hoy put out, I just sat there and kept flipping back and forth between them. It's pretty cool looking scene and set they have going on there. Now, if those photos didn't get your juices flowing, how about a dead Dothraki laying on top of a dead Lannister soldier who both have arrows through them on the battlefield? This next set that came from Los Siete Reinos is high quality and looks to be taken right next to the carnage, and it looks like the photographer's standing in the middle of the shoot. That is pretty awesome. Again, none of this is really surprise. We've known that this is going on. We knew that Dany's forces were going to be attacking the Lannister army as they were bringing their loot from Highgarden, but it just, again, I can't help but be a fan of this. Look at this. It's just great. When I was putting together today's script, I had to laugh because I was reading the story about these photos on Watchers on the Wall, and one of the sentences was just perfect. Sue the Fury, who writes the main content for the site Watchers, wrote, "This is going to be brutal, and I'm really looking forward to it." And I just thought about how funny of a sentence that is, because brutality is not usually something you're looking forward to, but it can be written so casually here because it's just a part of this show that we love so much. So kudos to Watchers on the Wall for making me laugh this morning. Fans of MMA and the UFC got some good news this week, where there were reports that Connor McGregor would be joining Game of Thrones. There was a couple different sources, and one of them happened to be the president of the UFC, Dana White, who told TMZ that he thought it was a good idea and he's glad he's doing it. Watchers on the Wall have a source that told them that McGregor will be playing a pirate on Euron Greyjoy's crew for his ship, the Silence. This is actually good news in my opinion, because if the Silence is the same on the show as it is in the books, then it's crewed entirely by mutes. They're mutes because, of course, Euron Greyjoy cut all their tongues out. So if that's the case, that'll be good because we don't have to worry about his acting chops. We can just watch him take a nice little supporting role. Apparently this came because either Dan or Dave, I don't think I've read anywhere where it says which one, but one of them is a huge fan of the UFC, so they wanted to have him involved. And I guess by all accounts, he's a interesting looking character, so why not? Finn Jones, who played Loras Tyrell, did an interview with Vulture, which at first I only read the blurb of, and then I went and read the whole thing, and it's definitely recommended reading. I would look it up if I were you guys. I found out something I didn't know. Loras actually, or at least, the actor who plays Loras, he's one of the few cast members who's actually read the Song of Ice and Fire novels. So he has a lot of opinions, which are interesting. And, one of the highlights here is that he talks about Loras's idea to confess in the show. And, he talks about how some fans were saying that it was a weak decision. And, that's because we really didn't see what happens down there. Like, if you have read the books, you know that the down in the dungeons is not a place you want to be. And, this is the kind of thing that's been working for powerful bodies and, in charge for a long time. People have historically admitted anything to stop torture. It's definitely not a method that's good about getting reliable information off of anyone, but if you want them to say that they did something they didn't do, long-term torture pretty much works. So he did talk about that, how his abuse would have been so horrendous that he would have basically said anything when he was brought in front of the trial. And then he talked about how he thought the series should end. I'll paraphrase his quote, which says that what he thinks needs to happen is Ice and Fire are going to go to war. A huge war between those two factions, and through that, they're basically going to destroy themselves. This is not just going to be chaos, but destruction, and nothing's really going to be left at the end of winter. So, basically the Iron Throne will be dissolved, both literally and figuratively, physically and ideologically, and basically everything will go back to individual kingdoms, and there'll maybe be some overseeing board that won't necessarily take power, but will give the power back to the different people in the different realms. This is a pretty well thought out theory that's been around for quite some time, so it's interesting to see that, some of these guys do actually get into the series. The actor who played King Joffrey Baratheon actually has never even watched the show. When he was interviewed, he was like, I hear it's brilliant. I probably should watch it. But yeah, so you know what I mean? They have busy lives. It's not necessarily required of the job to know what the hell's going on. From there, we got some more interesting photos of set construction, this time in Las Valetas, where they're setting up what looks to be King's Landing scenes. You can see the props. It kind of looks like somewhere similar to where we saw Cersei visit the High Sparrow last season. We'll probably have more from this location coming up in the next week, so make sure you check back for spoilers next week. On Friday, we got a blast of news that's so big. Well, no individual piece of it's so big, but we got so much information on Friday that it's almost a lot to get through here. First of all, Emilia Clarke showed up in Caceres, which we knew she would eventually, but we didn't know where she was up until this point. So at the same time, we got this photo of the VFX team who works on the dragon scene. So that looks like she'll be out there on the ambush area shooting the final days where she gets there with her dragon or dragons. We don't really know yet. We know there's at least one dragon involved. So that's exciting news. Then we got Lannister banners hanging in the Plaza de las Valetas that I showed you in the previous set construction pictures. A few of them are actually taken close up by Javi Borrega, who took some of those other pictures, and you get a little bit of insight into what might be going on, although it's a little bit confusing because in this photo on Instagram, we can see that it says Davos' skiff. Now, my subscribers know that Davos was doing a scene near King's Landing with Tyrion and Gendry, No, wait, really? You haven't seen that one yet? You definitely need to check on the end screen for my spoiler playlist because that is a massive one that you really need to know about. But anyway, so Davos, was he there? Is he there? He was there. Will he be there whenever everyone else is there in this scene inside the city? We really don't know. But as you can see, there's lots of cool stuff going on. The banners and all these different props being installed. Hopefully we'll get more of this next week. I think they're only shooting there for a couple days, so should be exciting. Out of Northern Ireland that same day, we got some interesting photos with some characters that you may not have realized have never been anywhere near each other before. In this photo, we see Jorah, the Hound, and Tormund, all who are likely there to shoot at the Wolf Hill Quarry scene. Now, we've talked about this scene, we talked about why they're there in previous spoiler videos, so I'm not going to go all the way through it all, but just think about that for a second, that Jorah spent most of this entire series traveling around in the east, and obviously Tormund hasn't gone very far from the Wall. And then the Hound, I mean, the Hound is, none of these guys have been together before, so that's pretty exciting. Also, Jon Snow, Kit Harington was seen, talking to fans there, plus we saw that shot of him earlier where he's on that set. So these all seem to back up our earlier ideas about what they're going to be doing there, and it should be epic. So I'm going to end today's video with a little bit of Mira, or Ellie Kendrick news. She did an interview over at Inverse, and she actually gets into some theory stuff, which is kind of fun to read, and it's a good article all the way around. But they were talking about fan theories, and this one that I've always thought is pretty bad and not likely to be true, but that her and Jon are actually siblings, like they were twins. And she just goes into talking about how they really don't know what's going on. Like, she's heard the theory and she thinks it would be cool for her if it was true. But, when people ask her about it, she's just like, I don't know. They don't tell me anything. I have no clue. I really wouldn't know until the day that we were about to shoot the scene or whatever. So that's kind of fun. And she mentions being involved in the tourney at Harrenhal history and lore narration that she did for the season 6 DVD set. And what I just want to say, if you're watching, Ellie, it says here that you want to know more about Mira and Jojen's parentage, who the Cranning men are, and who your father on the show, Howland, is. Well, I do happen to have 2 videos that I've made recently about those subjects, so you should check those out. One little thing before I get into the book giveaway. I've been thinking about starting a new project because I've been doing a lot of traveling, and it's a brand new channel that I will probably put out in the next couple months. If you got a second, would you click on this link and subscribe so I can set the channel up properly? You need like 100 subscribers. And even though there's no content there, there is some potentially interesting stuff I'm planning on doing. So in the meantime, while you're there subscribing, you can click on the Instagram link to follow the Instagram account to find out what's going on. I appreciate any help. So that's about it for this week, guys. I know it's a long one, but hey, there's a lot of cool news. So make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it. Let's talk about it all in the comments. The book giveaway is still going on, so please leave a comment here on any of my other recent videos. When I reach 28,000 subscribers, I will send one commenter a book. In fact, a specific book that is the 20th anniversary edition of A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. All you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video or any of the others where I mention this giveaway. Check back tomorrow for part 2 of my Are the Gods Real series. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, go ahead and click on that. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.